basically. So the things to avoid that's really important. Normally, you would like to keep your diet on like a low carbohydrate, low sugar diet, just because what happens is that candida, being yeast, you want to make sure that you reduce yeast prone foods or foods that may contain mold, such as peanut butter, peanuts, stuff like that, pistachios as well. So that's all stuff we would like to avoid, as it may increase the chance of having more candida to grow. There's also, so yeah, the mold prone foods. We have stuff, so obviously there's the importance of eliminating like refined sugar foods, processed foods, because that affects candidiasis a lot, as our body can't process it as good as it would be for whole foods. So, and also that's another thing where sometimes we may think, because oh well, pineapples are really good for me, or like fruits are really good for me, but candidiasis, what it does is that once you get if let's say you were too big to eat, like let's say like a big chunk of pineapple or something, well, pineapple is good for you, right? It has a really good digestive enzymes even in there, bromelain, that's really good for inflammation as well. But with candida, since pineapple is also quite high in sugar, what it does is that yes, you still get some benefits, but when you eat it and you're starting to digest, it goes and it transforms into its most simple sugars. Um, so basically, your body will process it as sugar in whichever form it may be. It could be the same for, grains or bread, pasta, all those kind of thing, where your body, normally it could be good for us, but for some people that are prone to having candidiasis, then once it's being transformed and processed, it will still be absorbed within the body as more simple sugar. So that's why it's really important for to better heal and to better treat candidiasis. We want a diet that's quite low in carbohydrates and sugar. So normally that would include like low sugar berries. There's quite limited fruits, although you can do avocados that are also really good and healthy fats. You can do most vegetables that are also quite good. Um, for the purpose of candidiasis, normally beans and legumes needs to be limited. It doesn't have to be stopped completely necessarily, but it is best since it is quite high in starches and quite high in carbohydrates. Your body again will process it as being quite high in sugar and hence feeding or possibly feeding candidiasis. So that's another of the things. So it would be best if it was like, incorporating more lean, organic, grass fed, or pasture raised poultry and meats into the diet. Eggs are also really good. Going on like a full, candidiasis diet while being vegan or vegetarian might be not necessarily might be a little bit harder, but you just have to be a little bit more conscious, especially since a vegan diet might be more prone to having a lot of beans and legumes in them, so you just want to be mindful and maybe use other substitutes. Soy could be a good one if it's not something that the person is intolerant to. Talking of intolerances, that's another thing that's quite important with going on a candidiasis diet, is that normally we would ask for the person to cut out dairy and gluten. It doesn't have to be forever, but just for the healing part, which can take up to like 4 weeks, 6 weeks, a few months. Um, Normally you can cut out gluten and dairy for let's say approximately 4 to 6 weeks, and then start reincorporating it after 4 to 6 weeks, and start slowly. So if let's say you were someone that was used to eating lots of cheese or a lot of dairy, which again, if some people are intolerant but may not know, that also might feed the candidiasis and the yeast overgrowth, because all that inflammation, all that damage that's creating to the gut can lead to candidiasis and just like an impaired gut, which it kind of all relates. Um, so yeah, so gluten and dairy to be cut out for 4 to 6 week at minimum, and then if ever you do feel the need to go back, then you can start incorporating slowly and see if you see any symptoms. That's what's really interesting too with the elimination diet, is that you'll see that by cutting those out and then reincorporating them, like while you gave your body kind of the rest that it needed to heal, once you incorporate those foods again, you'll see if it was really a trigger or not, because the symptoms will appear much more stronger.